I for some makwaba at the FOKA TV. So Jimmy Datunde said the black man story, and Emraso said the Bremen. And so Yansaka, Dr. Maulana, or Hasia, in Babetoy and Comoa, 50 last week, dear Twatwa, Green Swiss, and you may be briefing on the Babetoaso, Eddie Fiona, and Nano, you might be room, you see, the year of return, Exodus, emancipation of Yeninano, a spiritual. You might be how spiritual it is. Intino, you better catch it, no, it's me. Akosua de yi pa na me dey Franco ko je se ma beti ma frame FOKA Debin Jackson name MCR esanso me DOP. Once again, you are welcome to FOKA TV, the program called The Black Man Story. Today we have the honor to have Dr. Maulana, master teacher Dr. Maulana, the founder of Ministry of the Future, with us today too. You see, in our subsequent episode, we're talking about the year of return, the right of return, and its significance. But now we want to talk about how spiritual it is, because most Ghanaians, and I think, let me put it like this, most Africans think this thing is materialistic or it's physical. So we just want to go to him and learn more about how spiritual or how impactful this thing is going to have on the continent spiritually. So don't go anywhere. We are coming.
This show is proudly brought to you by Ohineba Ghana Rice, Amen Mat, Becky Bell Homemade Pizza, Debbie's Collection, Ma Docker's Pastries, Pizzeria Food Delivery.
I have heard some makwaba at the back FOKA TV. So na the Black Man Story Jimmy Dino and Muguswa mu Ushano. Ye kon me catch us Yansaka master teacher Dr. Maulana, the founder of Ministry of the Future was here in Between Komo. No me catch us Jimmy Diewe no both the ingenious people here and I feel so union more diaspora na ye Jimmy na ye shishama intino ye kabro FOKA kra na yandane enso etimi akotwi. You are once again welcome back to FOKA TV, and today too we are honored to have the man himself, the founder of the Ministry of the Future, here with us, Dr. Maulana, master teacher of course. And today too we are just going to learn more from him. If you could remember our previous episode, he was talking about spiritual movements, talking about the exodus that our brothers in the diaspora embarking on. So today we just want to continue from our previous episode. Dr. Maulana, you're welcome to FOKA TV.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here.
Okay, so let's move away from last episode or previous interview that we did. You were talking about, I specifically asked you about Genesis chapter 15 verse 13 and 14, and you told us that that particular chapter or the verse in the Bible is spiritual. Ghanaians don't know how important and how spiritual our brothers and sisters in the diaspora coming back to their motherland. They don't see how spiritual it is. Can you please teach us?
Well, I'll try my best to open up the subject matter on that, okay, and put it in perspective. First of all, I think the world knows that we as African people, starting right here on the continent, African people all over the world, we are spiritual people. That has to be made clear. Yeah. We are spiritual people, spiritual beings. Okay. But with the situation of the Africans of the diaspora, descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, there's been a sacrifice. And we know that when there's a sacrifice, there's supposed to be givings that are going to come out of that. Something very, very enormous. And redemption will come from the sacrifice. So in this case here, the Africans of the diaspora, descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, went down into slavery, were kidnapped against their will, taken to a foreign land, just like we had quoted previously in the biblical story. Genesis chapter 15, verses 13 and 14. Taken to a foreign land, 6,000 miles away from here, scattered in the winds throughout the Americas, in the Caribbean, South America, Central America, Caribbean islands, or what they call today United States of America, Canada. And so as a result of that, there was a 400-year absence of them from the continent. And were being persecuted in captivity. And so this, in essence, has brought about in the people themselves a spiritual consciousness of who they are and what their mission is. Now, let me explain what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I am saying is this, that on the day one, right at the outset of the advent of the transatlantic slave trade, when our people were forced onto these boats, and it would take anywhere from 3, maybe 6 months sometime to cross through the Middle Passage. And we know it was nothing but a ocean cemetery. Is what it was. But our people began to call names for the Creator in our mother tongue. In Tree, maybe Yakopong, Nyame, you know what I mean? Help us. And it didn't save them. I mean, in other words, and so the voyage continued. And when our people were disembarked into the cotton fields of Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, in the sugarcane fields of Cuba, Jamaica, worked like a donkey 24/7. You had to sun up to sundown. Our people called for the Creator to come. So what I'm saying, there had to be, along the way of the realization, that one came to the understanding that nobody is going to come and save you, but you to save yourself. And this God that you're looking for is closer to you than your jugular vein. That God is within you. We know that there's a supreme being in the universe, and it extends its cosmic energy in beings here on earth, especially with the original people. So what I'm saying is that by virtue of this sacrifice, in my opinion, the African descendants of the transatlantic slave trade became endowed with an extra incentive of spirituality. And it's not to be taken for a joke. It is not to be played with. Here is a people who have spent over 400 years in captivity under the worst conditions that humanity has ever recorded. You understand what I'm saying? And they survived with their African heritage. Gave them the resilience to go through this fire, be burned, and come out alive, even to the point of turning out in the fields of academics, science, some of the greatest people in the world, and eventually become the president, the master of the house that enslaved you. You were taking over the master's house. So all of this, in my opinion, is divine intervention, because what goes on with the African in the diaspora is also beneficial with the African on the continent. We are inseparable. Don't get me wrong. No, we are inseparable. We are the same people. But what I'm saying is the experience of the transatlantic slave trade took the African to another level. Took that African to another level by virtue of the inhumanity that was meted against them. The inhumanity, the crimes that were committed against them. It gave them inner consciousness, an acute perceptibility to know thyself. Man and woman, know thyself. So after 400 years of this, you see, the children never turned their back on their mother. Is that not so? They never turned their back. Meaning that from day one, even though you've been absent from your mom for over 400 years, you still was like a sheep in the wilderness, bah, 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 calling for your mother to come home. Your mother didn't have to call you. You were calling for her. And you have made your way back to your mom now. Your mother and your father. You are now, boom, 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 knocking at their door. Mommy sees you. Oh, my child. Oh, my children. You have been absent for over 400 plus years. You have suffered so. Let me please adore you. And so the African of the diaspora is carrying a spiritual power with them.
Okay.
And that spiritual power was the endowment through the enslavement and absorbing the skills and coming to the knowledge of yourself was to come back to Africa and to rebuild Africa and make Africa and African people great like we were in the beginning. So as it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth will make you free. So we have come back, and we're coming with that spiritual rod to open doors that normally would not open. We're coming back to build, but we're going to need the cooperation of our brothers and our sisters. And it must be understood that this entity of the children that are coming back under the banner of spirituality, they're not coming back to be the hoodwink, coming back to let's say to do nonsensical things. Not coming back on no vacation. No. You're coming back for a purpose. You have gone through the fire. And you are coming back for a specific purpose. And that is to reconstruct or to resurrect the resurrection of Africa. Divine intervention is the portfolio that you are under. Divine intervention. And this spiritual force says that any man or woman that tries to block and step on this spiritual stone, this stone will crush them by virtue of the spirituality and forces behind it. So they're not to be played with, is what I'm trying to tell you. And I'm not saying that just to be frivolously using words. I'm saying it because we know it is a fact that a people who have gone through so much and a people for hundreds of years survived and did not turn their back on their homeland and their motherland. And did everything in their power to get back to their motherland and to come back to their motherland, to resurrect this motherland and put it on the right path, and to get rid of all of these charlatans, to get rid of all of these corrupt people, to get rid of all these greedy bastards. Is to get our people moving, to care about the needy, the children, to get back to the bosom of the Creator, to recognize the suffering of our ancestors, a paradigm, a divine paradigm shift is what is in the making.
So let's go straight to one thing that, you know, when you talk about in Ghana, we mostly easily communicate well with you, or we listen with rapt attention, is religion. You see, and going through this thing with you since the previous episode, we're talking more about the Bible quotations, trying to link our brothers and sisters from the diaspora, and everything is more or less like there's an evidence in the Bible proving that whatever you are saying is true. So talking about the Exodus, we have a narrative in the Bible, that is the book of Exodus, where the children of God were also moving away from the country or the nation that they were enslaved to their motherland, that they were led by Moses. Does that story in the Bible also have a connection with what is happening now?
Yes, it does. As we see it, as I see it, the example of Moses leading the children out of Egypt. This is an allegory. You understand? The Bible is not so much to be talked about if you understand it in the past tense. No. We're talking about the future tense. You know, it's not the past tense. We're talking about the future. So the example of Moses, the example of what is Egypt, the dynamics of Egypt biblically is the greatest country that existed in the world at that time, the most powerful country that existed.
Okay.
It had the most scientific means than any other parts of the world. It was the so-called the center of the world, the Mecca of the world. Everybody wanted to immigrate to that country. You know what I'm saying? So we look at the United States of America. Is there any similarities between ancient Egypt with that particular diagram and the United States of America? Are there any similarities with a people being held hostage inside of the United States of America, and supposedly in the biblical story of people being held hostage inside Egypt? And then is there any similarities where they say the killing of the male children was really rampant, the desecration of the people, and then came a time where we had holy men that rose within those societies. Marcus Messiah Garvey, Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Noble Drew Ali. You understand what I'm saying? Elijah Muhammad. You understand what I'm saying? Then we had in the West Indies, Stanley Williams, C.L.R. James. You understand what I'm saying? George Patmore. And the list goes on. These were powerful men, spiritual men, coming in with the dynamics of spirituality for the purpose of liberating their people and bringing humanity back to the whole planet Earth. It's not just about us. We're talking about the whole planet Earth. It belongs to the Creator. And we are the benefactors. That planet was given to us in the beginning. And it is the responsibility of us is to take this planet back and put it back on its right track where it must go. And so this movement is not just about coming back to Africa. No, this movement is about reorganizing the whole planet Earth to go through a cleansing, a spiritual healing. But it has to begin with us first to be spiritually healed, spiritually cleansed, because of people who have been locked down for so many hundreds of years. And of people here who have been denied the same time. That means that there's a lot of trauma within us. And the only way you can get that trauma out is through a spiritual healing, an atonement. And our people who are coming back must hook up with the brethren and sisters here to bring about these atonement and healing ceremonies. And this is what we are coming back to do. That will be the transformation into the society, and it will be our elders here, right-minded elders, that will decide the way forward for us coming in. And it already has begun. And nobody can stop what is already in motion, because what has been ordained by the Creator and the African ancestors, no man nor woman can change. It's ordained that we must return to our motherland.
We must return to our motherland. Dr. Maulana, we will have a quick break. When you come back, we continue from where you just ended.
This show is proudly brought to you by Ohineba Ghana Rice, Amen Mat, Becky Bell Homemade Pizza, Debbie's Collection, Ma Docker's Pastries, Pizzeria Food Delivery.
And for some makwaba ediba FOKA TV so na enkomona na egu so twetwenene yewramu we can say the biblical aspect of a exodus and emancipation a course from 2019 up to now no na onipa ne na twetwen komo no onye very religious or ye researcher and a scientist, but ye gina dwenhwe because everything that all can in an ewo Bible nimu etino ye ko na akosuan de area found. Let's move away straight to Dr. Maulana. He was talking more about how spiritual and how significant this whole Exodus is. But today we want to go deep into the biblical aspect of it, you know, because I know most of our brothers here are interested in the religious aspect of the narrative. Dr. Maulana, let's move away from the Exodus and go straight to, in our previous interview, you talked about Ezekiel 37 it says that particular verse relates with African descendants of the transatlantic slave trade. How does Ezekiel 37, the quotation talking about the dry bones, has a relation with the African descendants of the transatlantic slave trade?
Well, I'll do my best, Frank, to dilate on that, to give meaning to your particular question.
Yeah.
I'm not deep in the Bible. I only use the Bible and religious books for research.
Okay.
But what I can tell you, what they're talking about in Ezekiel 37, going, the dry bones. In other words, for all practical purposes, our people had become like spiritually dead and walking.
Okay.
And one has to understand, this was the primary vested interest of the Europeans, the Aryan whites, that came down to ravage and pillage Africa. It was to take our people as beasts of burden and to take our memory banks, erase all of the knowledge that we had, because they know it only takes about less than a generation to make that shift in a people. Okay. And so their intent was to make us a beast, to destroy our intelligence, to make us a beast of burden in the fields.
Okay.
So I say in Ezekiel, talking about the dry bones.
Yeah.
These dry bones became living bones, exuberant bones, rising from the dead spiritually.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That it has shocked the hell out of the founding fathers of America.
Okay.
The power structure in the United States has been shocked to know that the mission was not accomplished. The same thing with Britain, the Queen. They are shocked. They did not accomplish their mission. The same thing with the Western European powers. They are shocked. And it's like now the chickens are coming home to roost. They are shocked over the power. And you only can give glory to God Almighty and African ancestors. A people who were considered to be totally spiritually dead, that have risen as the dry bones and become living bones. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Resurrected from the dead, now standing perpendicular with resilience, with a mission, with direction on what we are after. And all is pointed toward lifting our mother back.
Okay. I wanted to know that, is it that when you read the Ezekiel chapter 37, the Bible was saying God told the prophet to prophesy unto the dry bones, and the prophet did, and the bones, the life came into the bones. So I'm just asking, is it that the teachings and the education that most of our forefathers in the diaspora started, that is Marcus Muzagavi, Malcolm S., Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and the rest, the teaching that they were doing, is that what waked our brothers and sisters up, or what's the relation?
Well, let me try to deal with that.
Okay.
You see, dealing with the original man and original woman, which is the African race, in the beginning, we have a genetic memory bank.
Okay.
And in our genetic memory bank is data over billions of years that is stored in that memory bank. You understand me?
Yeah.
Now, the memory bank can be closed. You can close it. If somebody captures you, cut you off from communications, cut you off from education, cut you off from accessing anything that's going to keep your intellect going, pretty soon the memory bank will close. And then they can restructure it to try and take your memory bank with different data, just like a computer, in a different direction. But what they have not been able to do was to totally erase the original man's genetic memory bank. So our memory bank has been on hold under these pressures. And so the threat to the evil forces, in this case, that kidnapped us, they didn't want anyone to come with any keys to open up that genetic memory bank. Now, what I'm using that really as a metaphor. The keys are the teachings. They don't want a teacher to come around you and say, hey, you are a king. You are not a slave in no field. You come from, you are children, divine children of God Almighty. You're kings and queens. Then begin to teach. And then the brain begin to activate. It starts activating. The genetic memory bank now is beginning to come alive. And it's grabbing these things, grabbing them. And so the memory bank can be opened. And people like Marcus Messiah Garvey, they were only messengers. Messengers with these keys to open up the genetic memory bank. We were the source. We were the source. They just came with the message, which is the key. Click. And open up the memory and say, black man, black woman, you mighty people, get up. Elijah Muhammad said, black man, black woman, the first human beings that God Almighty created. This was said hundreds of years ago by black people. But we could not exercise the genetic memory bank because of the physical brutality that was holding us down. But little by little by little, these messages were getting through. And then there was a threshold of time. Somewhere probably, in this case here, we look in the early 1900s, let's say the late 1900s. W.E.B. Du Bois played a major role in this. Let's not forget him. He had his shortcomings. But let's give him a plus for some of the things that he did to wake us up. The souls of black folks. You understand what I'm saying? Then you had now coming Booker T. Washington. Up from slavery. Booker T. Washington, most people don't even know it. Booker T. Washington was the mentor for Marcus Messiah Garvey.
That's true.
It's a fact.
That's true.
It was Booker T. Washington that woke up Marcus Messiah Garvey. It was Marcus Messiah Garvey's trip to the USA in the 1919 or 1920, whenever it was, he arrived to New York. It was going on the invitation to see Booker T. Washington. But unfortunately, Booker T. Washington had an untimely death while Marcus Messiah Garvey was in transit coming. So you have to give credit to, and of course, come Marcus Messiah Garvey. He came with the UNIA. You know what I mean? And it was, and his thoughts and philosophy was powerful. Then you had Noble Drew Ali of the Black Moors, the Moorish Society. Then you had, of course, Elijah Muhammad that came, and he was an outgrowth, I hear, of juniors of Marcus Messiah Garvey. Then you had Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. Then you had Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture. I mean, all the Black Panthers. You know what I mean? Scholars coming left and right. And then we get into an age, and we must give credit here to people like the late Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop. In Wolof, it's called Diop, but in English, it's Diop, a Senegalese. A Senegalese Egyptologist and physicist that broke the racist code of Egyptology through a UNESCO conference in 1974 and proved that ancient Egyptians were blacks through the melanin content analysis that he did. Now, Sheikh Anta Diop was the pivotal of what we call Afrocentricity, African-centered thought of the works of Dr. Diop. So to answer your question about the dry bones, these were the keys, as you call prophecies, that came and opened up our genetic memory bank. And now the genetic memory bank is open. It's open wide now.
Talking about the dry bones, that was in the 90s. former president, Flight Lieutenant John Rawlings, brought some bones from Jamaica. What was the significance of that bones? Because Ghanaians will think of, we are in a country and the president has used taxpayers' money to transport only bones from another country to our country. We don't see.
No, it was deeper than that.
Okay.
You know, when we talk about the bones,
Yeah.
we have to go back to Osagyefo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah.
Okay.
Nkrumah had actually set the fire for Ghana or the Gold Coast in the world. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, of course, with his the powers that be in the world, that they knew that he was a heavy messenger.
Yeah.
And so after his overthrow, the continuity of trying to find and get home, it was still going on.
Yeah.
Then what happened? Something very great in Ghana. The late F.Y. Sutherland, Dr. Sutherland, she came up with the concept, the global concept of Panafest.
Yeah.
The Pan-African Festival of Arts and Science, etc., to bring all of the Africans globally together to Ghana, to this particular biannual event.
Yeah.
That was in 1992.
Okay.
So therefore, the match, now, you know, the genetic bank, memory bank was wide open. So then what happened was, in 1997, just to fast track it here, the late head of state of Ghana, His Excellency Jerry John Rawlings, his wife Nana Konadu Ajiman Rawlings, the both of them were on a state visit to Trinidad Tobago in the West Indies and Jamaica. They just happened to be there during the period of time, August the 1st, when the colonies, former colonies in the Caribbean, who were independent now, but they were liberated or emancipated by Britain on the 1st of August. And I believe it was about 1834. You know what I mean? And so he saw this particular carnival. Not a carnival, but he saw the dynamics of emancipation, how the people came out in the street, how people took it serious in Jamaica, Trinidad, Tobago, throughout the Caribbean. He said, we're going to bring this to Ghana. So in 1998, the government then, under J.J. Rawlings, the NDC, they had gone to work with some of the NGOs in Jamaica. One sister there in Jamaica called Mignon Phillips. She was very active in Pan-Africanism in Jamaica, and she was actually working with the Ministry of Culture there in Heritage at the cemetery where many of the slaves had been buried, and she had somehow or another found one of the skeleton remains of a little female that she named Crystal. And so she was negotiating to bring this young lady back to Africa, to Ghana, to be reinterred. And then we have a situation that happened in the, that's what I say, these things are spiritual. Because what happened in the United States of America around 1992 in downtown Manhattan, New York, there was a construction company getting ready to dig up and a foundation to put up a skyscraper, but not realizing they didn't have the blueprint of 300 years ago. There was a African slave cemetery there. So when the bulldozers began to go down and dig up the soil, all of these body remain parts began to come up. And they were African slaves. And so therefore the NGOs in the USA, African Americans got involved, and the whole thing began to climax, if you will, around 1998, that the government of Ghana was going to foot the bill, and this is why Ghanaians should really be proud of this. Ghana stepped out front and footed the bill on bringing back their lost sons and daughters. One from the United States was named Samuel Carson, and I think the age of that individual would have been over 150 years old, almost 200 years old. The one in Jamaica, I believe, was close to about 300 years old. And they were going to bring them back through a state-sponsored funeral. And what that did, that had a global fallout. It awakened Africans all over the world. It put Ghana on the map. It brought tourism revenue up by 1,000%. People wanted to travel. Number one destination now is come to Ghana. So, Ghana now was moving from this event. And so what happened was that it was a situation where not only bringing them back to Ghana, but to have it as a sustainable economic and heritage site in Ghana. And they were taken to Asin Manso by virtue of the fact that Asin Manso has a river that they call Nsuo Donko, the slave river. And it was there because during the days of slavery, many of the captives that were marched down from the north were making their way down to the coast. And in those days you didn't have cars or anything. And they're marching through the bush. It took 6 months to a year. And so they had to take a bath before they would put them on the ships at Cape Coast. Cape Coast is about 25 miles west of Asin Manso. So they brought them to Asin Manso and they put them there. And many of our people at Asin Manso, a lot of people don't know this, were so emaciated over marching, through the bush that they could not bring a value to be sold. And they were killed. They were murdered, thrown in pits right there in that river. And I've seen Manso in this, what they call the slave river, or Nsuo Donko. They were put in that river. So it's a very spiritual thing. And you know that water is life. And here we have the remains of our ancestors, perhaps in the thousands, maybe tens of thousands. Their bones have been scattered in this river that never made it over to America. So this became a very spiritual center for Ghana and Africans of the diaspora, even up until this day. This was really the foundational basis of the calling of the right to return, because we felt at that time, if you can give the dead the right to return, why can't you give the living the right to return? So I may be jumping the gun here, but this is how the spiritual dimensions of this began to take on energy and momentum from these particular events.
Okay, so right now, when you go to Asin Manso, there is evidence that proves that there is 2 graves in Asin Manso now. So is it a prophecy come true in Ezekiel chapter 37 that the prophecies will give life to the bones and the bones will return?
Yes. I mean, how else can we explain this? That's why we were talking in the previous interview. Did the year of return fall from the sky?
No.
Did the right of return fall from the sky?
No.
All of these things are spiritually interconnected. And we must understand, too, that Ghana itself, see, we haven't talked about that. If you don't mind me jumping in.
You can talk about
Ghana,
it.
Geophysically, GPS, geographically, what is Ghana? Ghana is in the center of the earth. Ghana is just not an ordinary piece of land. And in fact, it has been noted by those who are into metal technology that Ghana possesses some of the richest minerals than any other territory on the earth for its size, that is endowed with so much richness. So it is a rich land. And so it says in the New Christian Bible, I forget what it is, but it's the New Christian Bible that talks about Exodus 8:22. And it states that God has a kingdom in heaven, as we know, our Father who art in heaven, and also has a kingdom on earth. And God's kingdom on earth is in the midst of the earth. And midst is the old archaic language of English, means the center of the earth. So Ghana has played a major role as a magnet, as like, attracting Africans of the diaspora to become a spiritual healing place. And I seen Manso is a part of that spiritual healing. Ministry of the Future, the NGO that I founded, we wrote the narrative on the return bath.
Okay.
The spiritual dimensions of that.
Okay.
Because our ancestors' remains are lying in this river. Our ancestors went to that river to take their last bath. And we know water is life. And so we could feel the spirit of Mami Wata in this water. So we say if we're coming home, let's not talk about no last bath. Forget about the last bath. Let's talk about the return bath. And this is what has come out of this, the return bath. And that brings out this, what you talk about, the dry bones, all of that now has been resurrected from that particular foundational spiritual basis that we have discussed, leading up to Asin Manso, emancipation. You understand what I'm saying? The right to return. Now we're at the year of return. Now government is talking about beyond the return.
Yeah. Okay, so Dr. Maulana, our brothers in the diaspora, some are watching, and you know, most people have been awakening. Others too are yet to be. What message do you have for them?
The message I have for the ones in the diaspora?
The ones in the diaspora.
What I have, which I've always said, I've been consistent in this, that the Africans of the diaspora must find their way back to this motherland. And I know it's not easy. Many families just cannot be uprooted. They got their jobs, you know, responsibilities, children, everything. But I think at this day and time, the way the world is moving, is so much uncertainty in the world today, so much danger all around you. And like the killing of our brothers and sisters now at random in America with the support of the state police, that why continue to suffer under that when now the calling has come from the good works that we on the ground here are doing to convince governments here to receive our people back home. So my message to you is you must have a plan B. A plan B in your particular portfolio at home. And you should have it active. So at any moment of emergency, you can go without fear or favor. Without fear nor favor, you can move. And that is to come back to Africa.
Okay. Wow. Dr. Maulana, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you very much for having me on your program. I appreciate it very much.
We will definitely continue with this episode too.
Yes, by all means, by the grace of the Almighty. Thank you very much.
Wow. Ashafo, yesua de bebre na ene de no ye no more biblical. Your Bible mu kese. Enti no yenkomo ni nyina na ne gina Genesis chapter 15, 13 and 14 and Ezekiel 37. Talking about the dry bones no honom na yenkomo nyina de gina ya atem se yesua de bebre e de afa na wo hwe dwumedie ya atem se nyema ye kan ho asem nyina no e relate we Ghana ni wo hwe me wakwa asem man so da unnim de nti a asema nso ye wo enna mienu wo honom ena na ote se Dr. Maulana echechemu enso etimi ede amaye no ena de ba kon se wonti ase ne se emra Bible no e kan about the dry bones no wonso ochire mu kire se na ya adwen ne wo ho dadawo na emum no na adeda nti teachings na ekokoso no ena na ote mu se ebiebie adwen ni mu nti na je se yen no mo America ne Caribbean se de no mo nyina no omo adwene da ho ba se yatum enti no teachings na Marcus Musa Gavin no most honorable Elijah Muhammad ne omo maka no ekyerekye ye no e na ebie mu na shocking revelation ba called the mind no so say Marcus Musa Gavin no na o take inspirations and say osua nyema edifi Bukati Washington na Bukati Washington no ono oye slave nenen mamen papa na ye slave ansa na ebe abolish slave trade no eti no Bukati Washington no why slave pen ansa na mo abolish slave trade no in the 1834 mo ananka so no so ebetime beden no enti no Marcus Musa Garvey efi Jamaica eba ay America no obabe sua de efi Bukati Washington wo but unfortunately no wabeto no uye ansa na obedu America enti no these are some of the things na o chechi mu e dey afa dry bones no ho a ye hwese nyame no the next week no ye se besen aka no serious na ni na twetwe nkomo e dey afa beyond the return na ye ka beyond the return o say what share say the spiritual implications enti no hu se ye nwanom diasporans na e bagana ye njoma wa tu na ye njai aya apo na ye pese ye mbo omo no ana de dwedi na bisi bi fan kosi kwagesi ama betimi afremi foka Devin Jackson eboa with production any bibia yakramo